and welcome back. This is going to be episode 2 of the FullBack Dive podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a pretty eventful couple days since I last recorded. Last episode I introduced myself, went over a lot of the quarterback news, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and of course, as soon as I finished that recording, Carson Wentz got traded. So we're going to go over the Carson Wentz deal, a few other deals that I think are pretty notable, and then we're going to talk about some news that happened today. A lot of it's Patriot news. I'm a Patriots fan, as you can probably tell. But we're going to talk about that, and then it's going to be kind of a shorter episode, and then really starting tomorrow is the legal tampering period. So going to be a lot of news, probably going to be a few episodes this week, and I'm going to try to get as much content to you guys as I can. But without anything else, let's jump into it. So the first big trade, like I've already said, was Carson Wentz. As you guys know, he was on the Colts. Colts traded a first, and I think it was a second or a third, to the Philadelphia Eagles for Carson Wentz. Didn't work out. Frank Reich, a lot of people, including me, thought it was going to be a bounce-back year for Wentz. But he struggled. Didn't really have a true receiver. Michael Pittman had a good year, but he didn't really have a true number one. And that's not to make excuses for him. Obviously, he underperformed to what the Colts expected and from what his trade value was, and still is. However, I think the Colts made a pretty bad decision with this move. And here's why. Don't get me wrong. Wentz, again, like I said, underperformed. However, the quarterback market is not very good. As we'll say later, there's another name that popped up who was in some legal issues. You guys probably know, but we'll jump into him later. But beside him, Russell Wilson's off the board. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go anywhere now. So you're really down to only a few names. A couple rookies that have a lot of ups and downs, and there's a wide range of what people think are, what they're going to be in the NFL in terms of both scouts and, just general fans, which fans don't matter that much. And then from that other aspect of the guys that are going to be in free agency aren't that good. Trubisky is your biggest name. And the trade market isn't much better. So I don't think it was the right move by Indianapolis. I think they probably should have given him either some competition along with Wentz, but I think moving on was a little too premature. I think Washington, they're giving up about a second and a third. I think that's good for Washington. They have Taylor Heinicke. Wentz is a massive upgrade. No matter what, even if he has one of his worst years, he's still better than Heinicke. So I think Washington wins the trade now. If it doesn't work out, it'll probably just end up being a wash. Or even, if the Colts somehow snag a great quarterback in this offseason, you could see it in them winning it in the future. But as of right now, I'm not a huge fan of it from the Colts perspective. And I'm kind of 50-50 on the Washington. I still believe in Wentz. You saw that almost MVP season before he tore his ACL. We all saw it. So he has the potential. Can he just reel it back in and get going? That's the big thing. The next biggest news was actually a trade, I think that happened the next day. It was Khalil Mack. The edge rusher, formerly of the Bears, is now on the Chargers. Second-round pick and I think it was a 6. So pretty negligible there. Khalil Mack is still a game changer. Yes, he's been battling some injuries last season, the season before. But him and Robert Quinn were one of the better edge rushing duos when they were both playing. Robert Quinn almost led the league in sacks. He was up there for a while. Khalil Mack, great player still. I still think a top 10 edge rusher. You may see some people that disagree, but I think universally he's still seen as a top 10 edge rushing guy. Putting him alongside a bona fide top 10 guy in Joey Bosa, scary. Bosa's got that, he's quick, agile, and powerful. He almost always demands a double team on the one side. And now to add Khalil Mack, you can't double them both. So one's going to be one-on-one a lot. And that's going to wreak havoc in the AFC West. Would not want to be in the AFC West right now. I feel bad for any of those teams, especially Las Vegas, because they're going to be dealing with a lot of heat from a lot of different teams. But I think obvious winners, Chargers. I don't know what the Bears are doing. I feel bad for Fields because I think he's going to probably be another rebuilding year, and maybe 2, which isn't great for your quarterback. The weapons are going to disintegrate. Allen Robinson's not coming back. They weren't using him anyway, but Allen Robinson's not coming back. The offensive line's not great. The running back core is pretty much the only part of the team that's, solid. It's worrisome. I would worry about Fields. You guys may not know how I feel about Fields. I like him, but he needs a better situation. And last year was not a good situation, and this year's looking like it might be even a worse situation for Fields. But, yep, Mack to Chargers. Chargers are playoff contenders, and they might be the best team in the AFC West, but we'll see. Next, Amari Cooper. There was some rumors that he was going to be cut. That turned out to be incorrect. He is now going to be on the Browns. The Cowboys ended up trading him instead of cutting him, and they traded him to Cleveland for a 5th and a 6th round pick, and a swap of 6. Sorry. Pretty negligible. The Browns are pretty much getting, I think, a premier receiver on a not too bad deal. $20 million a year, but only for about 3 years. You saw Mike Williams sign that contract a few days ago. That's a pretty good value for Amari Cooper. I think he can be a player who can be the number one for Baker Mayfield. Now, there's a lot of distrust amongst the NFL with Baker Mayfield. I get it. I'm personally not too high on him myself. However, the Browns still have the foundation. It's really execution. Can Kevin Stefanski and his staff reel the team in and play to their expectations? That's the biggest thing for the Browns. I think they can do it. However, it's a tough AFC North, and if Baker Mayfield really isn't that guy, the Browns may be looking at another pretty long drought before they're back to winning ways. Hope I'm wrong on that. However, it's pretty 50-50 right now. But the big news, I'm only going to touch on this briefly because, frankly, I'm not that great to speak on it. I don't really know what I don't know the details. I'm not a lawyer, and I can't prove anything. So I'm just going to talk about it from a pure football perspective for 2 minutes and move on. Deshaun Watson. He's not facing criminal charges. Now, whether he's guilty or not, we don't know. We may know after the civil suits, but as of right now, criminally, he's not going to be facing any charges. So with that being said, he's back on the trade market, and there's already a pretty substantial market for Deshaun Watson. There's a bunch of reports. We don't know what's true, what's not yet. But one of the reports is that it's down to Carolina and the Saints. Now, personally, I don't think either situation is very beneficial to Watson. The Saints are undergoing massive changes. Cap situation is not great. If there's one team that can get out of the cap situation, it's the Saints. But it's not a great, area at the moment. Michael Thomas, you don't know what's going on there. Alvin Kamara has his legal issues. We don't know what is going to be of the Saints next year. Carolina, on the other hand, I think had a massively disappointing season last year. They had the foundation, I think, to be a playoff team, even possibly win a playoff game. Sam Darnold wasn't that guy, and Matt Rule just did not coach, even, I think, below average. He was horrible. Clock management, the scheme, firing Joe Brady. I mean, if you guys watched the podcast, you guys know how I think about Matt Rule, but not high right now. So either situation I don't think is great for Watson. We don't know what a suspension is going to look like. We have no idea. From a football perspective, he's a top 5 quarterback when he's playing. Should he be playing? I'm not going to make that decision. That's for the fans and the teams. That's not for me. I just hope that he didn't do it, but if he did do it, he shouldn't be playing. That's where I'm going to leave it. There's more to it. There's people way more qualified to talk about this than me. That is my take on it. Going to move on. So, those are pretty much all the past moves. Now, the legal tampering period is going to start tomorrow. People can start agreeing to deals pretty much at 12:01 Eastern Standard Time. You're going to start getting a lot of news about players that are, signed. They can't sign until Wednesday, but they'll be signed. So the legal tampering period is pretty much open. We're going to have a lot of news. There's a lot of news out of New England's camp that we're going to talk about, but let's just jump into it. The first news is Trey Flowers could possibly be returning. He got cut from the Lions. Huge addition for New England. He knows the scheme. I know we've kind of got away from the 4-3 defensive end mold. The only one we really have is Deatrick Wise. However, when you have a player who's had success in New England, like Trey Flowers, there's no reason not to get him. He won't be too expensive. He may have a market from a few other teams. However, I doubt it'll be anything too substantial. But, if a team's going to offer him the money, go for it. But I would love to see Trey Flowers back in New England on that defensive line with Christian Barmore. Beautiful. A couple other names. Christian McCaffrey trade rumors. These have been kind of floating around for a while. There's nothing any substantial yet. However, if they don't get Watson, CMC could be on the trade block. That team could easily be going towards a full rebuild. Matt Rule could be sacked this season if he doesn't do something. And if they think that they need to get an extra pick out of McCaffrey to make next season successful, they'll do it. So Christian McCaffrey, a few other teams could use that X-Factor running back to really kind of get him over that hump. I think there's plenty of teams that could use his service. I would be worried the Chiefs would call. That's just my worry. I don't know what the cap situation's like. I'll have to look into it. But it is out there, and I saw a couple rumors about it. Now it's time for some New England news, and we'll wrap it up. The first news is Allen Robinson and DJ Chark, 2 wide receiver names to look for, and I would honestly add AJ Green to that list. There's been reports that we've done our homework on Allen Robinson. I love that. Chark would be my number 1 option out of the receivers after Amari Cooper if he would have gotten cut. AJ Green, people are going to turn their nose at that. I disagree. I think AJ Green could be a phenomenal 4th option in New England. And when I say 4th option on a normal team, you think, 20 catches a season. I don't think I'd do that. I think he would fit phenomenally in kind of like a second slot type of role. Have Jacoby obviously in the left slot, but have AJ Green kind of, roll out there next to some tight ends, or maybe even have him play in some kind of, jumbo shots, and have him just run. He still has the ability to catch the football. He's a little slower with his age. We all know that. Injuries as well. However, as a 4th option, it would help alleviate the stress of other receivers. Jacoby Myers, who we'll talk about in a second. Nelson Aguilar, a possible rookie. Even pair him with another free agent like DJ Chark. I'd love it. So, AJ Green's kind of my sneaky Patriot edition. It almost makes too much sense. Speaking of Jacoby Myers, Jacoby gets the second-round tender, meaning he should be back as long as the team doesn't really overpay for him. Second-round tender is worth almost $4 million. I doubt a team will give him more than that in the open market, considering he hasn't really had much standalone success in New England. However, he should have somewhat of a market, but expect him. I don't think a team will be willing to give up a second-round pick for Jacoby, so he should be back next year. On the contrary, that means Jakob Johnson, the fullback, will not be tendered. Now, Jakob plays a massive role in the New England offense. A lot of people don't understand that. Fullbacks aren't flashy; they're not the number premier position that people want to play. However, if you look at New England's efficiency with him on the field and without him on the field, he's really important. And he helped Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson and even Brandon Bolden have a phenomenal year. He's important. I really hope we get him back. If not, it's Ben Mason time in New England. I'm not against that. But I think Jakob Johnson is a premier fullback in the league. Top 10. I would argue top 5. So those are the 2 biggest. And then the 2 news that just happened before I hit record. Dante Hightower and Devin McCourty both re-signing on team-friendly deals. Devin McCourty, it sounds like it's going to be kind of a bit of a restructure, so he'll keep his same cap hit, around $6 million, according to Miguel. Shout out to Miguel. He's easily the best on Twitter for cap situations. New England Cap. Follow him. And then Dante Hightower. This one surprised me. I was 100% expecting us to let him walk. However, Hightower, he's kind of taken a step back. If he does come back to New England, it'll probably be in a lot less it'll be more of a situational role, 25% of the snaps, but he'll be a leader. And I think New England needs to keep their leaders around for at least one more season. If we do get younger this year, we want to have guys around that are going to mentor the younger players. Would love that for New England. I think Hightower would be phenomenal as the 3rd linebacker, or even a 2nd linebacker next to a rookie, or Leighton Vander Esch. Hint, hint, go after Leighton Vander Esch, New England, please. I think he'd be a great fit. But those are the moves that are as of right now. I don't think there's any big major moves. I will check just to make sure so I don't end recording and not. But it doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it. That'll be it, guys. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Kind of a shorter episode again. But I think this is kind of maybe the preferred length. Maybe a little bit longer. And after free agency ends, I will start going into more of the draft. I'll start giving you guys some opinions. Maybe if I can even, work the technology, I'll be able to do some film breakdowns with you guys. Learn the process as I'm learning it. And, just watch some film and get ready for the NFL draft. But thank you again. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in probably a couple days, depending on how free agency goes. But have a good day, y'all. and this is the Fullback Dive Podcast.